The Defiant Princess. The crystal hall of the Zerethian palace shimmered like frozen starlight. The walls hummed softly with ancient energy. Princess Xira stood in the center, her hands clenched into fists. Her blue eyes glowed with anger as she faced her father, King Vorin. His tall, silver-robed figure sat upon the throne of eternity, watching her with calm, unyielding eyes. "I refuse to marry a human, father." Xira's voice echoed through the hall. "How can you ask this of me?" King Vorin sighed and steepled his long fingers. His crown of shifting light cast rainbow patterns across his pale skin. "This is not about you, my daughter," he said. "This is about peace. The war with Earth has drained our resources for too long. The Council has agreed. A marriage between you and Captain Daniel Cross will end the conflict." Xira shook her head. "Humans are violent, selfish creatures. They destroyed their own planet with greed and war. And now you want me to marry one of them." "Not all humans are like that," the king said softly. "Daniel Cross saved thousands of Zerethian refugees during the Battle of Titan. He is an honorable man." Xira turned away. Her heart pounded in her chest. "You're treating me like a tool." "No, Xira," the king said. "I am protecting our people. If you refuse, Earth will see it as an insult. War will return, and this time, we might not survive." The princess stood still. The weight of his words pressed down on her. War. She remembered the holograms of burning cities, of Zerethian ships falling like broken birds from the sky. The screams of survivors haunted her dreams. But the thought of marrying the human felt like betrayal. Without another word, Xira turned and walked out of the hall. Her father's voice followed her. "Think carefully, my daughter. The fate of two worlds depends on you." Xira wandered the palace corridors until she reached the forbidden archives. The guard stepped aside, recognizing her royal mark. Inside, the cold glow of ancient data crystals surrounded her. She placed her palm on the main console. "Access Earth file. Project Genesis," she commanded. The console hesitated before responding. "File classified. High-level clearance required." Xira's eyes narrowed. "Override with royal access. Code. Starlight Ascend." The console hummed, then displayed a holographic image of Earth. The planet appeared peaceful, its blue oceans swirling with clouds. But then the image shifted. Strange, black objects emerged from the sky. The continents turned red as massive explosions covered the surface. The oceans boiled. Earth was destroyed. Xira gasped. This can't be real." The image changed to show lines of alien symbols. One word repeated over and over. "Void Reapers." Who are they? She wondered. And why would Earth hide this? Her thoughts raced. Her father said Earth wanted peace. But if this destruction was real, Earth might be hiding something more dangerous than anyone knew. Suddenly, the console beeped. A hidden message appeared. "Project Genesis. Failed. The Void Reapers are coming. Earth will fall." The hologram vanished. Xira stood in silence, her heart racing. The Void Reapers. What are they? Before she could investigate further, the room's alarm blared. Unauthorized access detected. Guards' footsteps echoed down the hall. Xira bolted for the side exit, her mind filled with questions. Hours later, she stood on her private balcony, watching the twin moons rise. The cold night wind bit her skin, but she hardly noticed. She remembered the fear in the message. The Void Reapers are coming. Earth was terrified of something. Something worse than war with Zerethia. Her father's plan to marry her to Captain Cross no longer seemed like a simple political move. Was Earth seeking an alliance because of this hidden danger? The sound of footsteps interrupted her thoughts. She turned to see her father approaching. His expression was unreadable. "I know you accessed the forbidden archives," he said. Xira's stomach turned to ice. "Why didn't you tell me, father, about the Void Reapers?" Vorin's eyes hardened. "Because Earth created them. And if they return, we will all die." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. So, the marriage, it's not just for peace. No, the king admitted. It's for survival. The princess lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling. Fear and anger twisted inside her. Earth created the Void Reapers, and now they want our help. But if the Reapers were real, Earth wasn't the only target. Zarethia would fall too. I need answers, she thought, and I won't find them here. Her decision was made. She would go to Earth. She would learn the truth about the Reapers and find out whether the humans were allies or the real enemy. As the first light of dawn touched the palace spires, Sarah whispered to herself, I refuse to marry a human. But if I must work with one to save my people, then so be it. The hidden truth, more unique and lengthy with suspense, mystery, and action, while keeping the language simple and clear. The Zarethian royal shuttle glided silently through the endless void of space, its silver hull reflecting the distant glow of Earth's sun. Hidden in a supply crate deep within the cargo hold, Princess Sarah crouched in the dark. Her heart pounded in her chest with every vibration of the ship. The cold metal floor chilled her skin, but her mind remained sharp and focused. She had escaped the palace with nothing but a stolen data crystal and her determination. Her father would send search teams after her. She was certain of that, but this journey was too important to abandon. The mystery of the Void Reapers haunted her. If they were real, then the entire galaxy was in danger. She whispered to herself, Earth is hiding something, and I'm going to find out what it is. The ship hummed softly around her as it approached Earth's orbital station. Through a crack in the crate, she saw the glowing planet below. Its blue oceans reminded her of the hologram she'd seen in the archives. The same world that, according to the hidden files, had been destroyed by shadowy invaders. But Earth was still here, intact and thriving. That single fact made her question everything she'd seen. The shuttle docked with a gentle jolt. Sarah stayed perfectly still as the cargo was transferred to the station's loading bay. When the footsteps of the workers faded, she pushed the crate's lid aside and climbed out. She wore a dark cloak over her tunic and hid her glowing blue eyes with a pair of human-made sunglasses she'd stolen from the palace market. With her hair tied back, she hoped to pass as just another alien visitor to Earth's bustling station. She moved quickly toward the docking terminal, her heart racing. Earth's capital city, New Geneva, was a maze of steel towers and hover lanes. The streets below were crowded with humans and off-world visitors from dozens of species. Sarah kept her head down as she walked along the elevated platforms. The air smelled of rain and fuel, and the distant hum of flying cars filled her ears. Her destination was the Earth Historical Archives, a massive glass pyramid that held centuries of human data. If anyone had answers about the Void Reapers and Project Genesis, they would be there. But she wasn't the only one searching for answers. As she neared the archive entrance, she noticed two figures standing across the plaza. They wore black tactical suits with the Earth Defense Force insignia on their shoulders. Their eyes scanned the crowd, and one of them held a scanner that beeped softly. They're looking for me. Sarah turned down a side alley, quickening her pace. The soldiers followed. She ducked beneath a maintenance drone, her heart thudding in her chest. The soldiers' footsteps grew louder. She sprinted toward a narrow stairway and dashed down it, turning a corner, only to collide with someone waiting at the bottom. A strong arm caught her as she stumbled. She looked up into the face of a human man. His dark hair was slightly unkempt, and his hazel eyes studied her with cautious curiosity. "You're in trouble," the man said. Sarah pushed away from him. "Leave me alone." "Those guys back there don't look friendly," he said, nodding toward the approaching soldiers. "Come with me if you want to stay breathing." Sarah hesitated. She didn't trust humans. But the soldiers were close. "Fine," she said through clenched teeth. The man grabbed her hand and pulled her into a hidden maintenance tunnel. The soldiers' footsteps passed above them moments later. The man let go of her hand. "You're new to Earth," he said. Zira adjusted her sunglasses. Why did you help me? The man smiled faintly. I have a soft spot for people being chased by black-suited goons. He extended a hand. Daniel Cross. Zira's breath caught in her throat. Daniel Cross. The human she was supposed to marry. She kept her expression neutral and shook his hand. Zira, she said, using a false name. Daniel glanced at her face. Zira, you're not here for a vacation, are you? I'm looking for answers. About what? About Project Genesis. Daniel's smile disappeared. His eyes turned sharp. That's dangerous knowledge, he said quietly. And it's not what you think. Then tell me what it really is. Daniel hesitated. Come with me. They traveled through abandoned subway tunnels until they reached an old communication hub beneath the city. Daniel opened a rusty door and gestured for her to enter. Inside, the walls were covered with holographic screens showing military reports, star charts, and old records. He activated a hologram. An image of Earth appeared, just like the one Zira had seen in the archives. The surface turned red as black, insect-like ships descended from the sky. Cities burned. Oceans boiled. The Void Reapers, Daniel said. They attacked Earth. Zira asked, her voice trembling. Almost, Daniel said. This was a simulation based on the files from Project Genesis. Earth scientists created the program to predict future threats. The Void Reapers aren't here yet, but they're coming. Zira's mind spun. Why does Earth keep this secret? Because panic would destroy us long before the Reapers arrive, Daniel said. Genesis was Earth's plan to create super soldiers to fight them. It failed. Zira stared at the hologram. The same alien ships she'd seen in the Zarethian archives hovered over Earth's broken surface. The Reapers feed on fear, Daniel continued. Wherever they go, civilizations collapse from the inside out. That's how they win. Zira's legs felt weak. She gripped the edge of a metal console. If Earth falls, she whispered, Zarethia will be next. Daniel nodded grimly. That's why we need your help. Your father's fleet is powerful enough to turn the tide. Zira swallowed hard. He won't listen to me. He thinks humans are the enemy. Daniel's jaw tightened. Then we need proof the Reapers are real. And I know where to find it. Where? Daniel pointed to a glowing red dot on the holographic map. An abandoned moonbase in the Typhon system. That's where the Reapers first made contact. If we get there first, we'll have the evidence we need. Zira nodded. Let's go. But as they turned toward the exit, the holographic screens suddenly went dark. The words unauthorized accessdetcte flashed across every display. Daniel grabbed a rifle from a nearby crate. They found us. The ceiling trembled as footsteps echoed through the tunnels. Zira's breath caught as she heard a low metallic growl. Daniel's face paled. That's not Earth security, he whispered. From the shadows beyond the door, glowing red eyes appeared. And then came the sound of claws scraping against steel. The enemy of my enemy, written with more suspense, action, and depth. The language is kept simple and clear, and the story remains in third-person style. The metallic growl echoed through the dark tunnel like a warning from a nightmare. Zira froze, her eyes locked on the glowing red shapes moving in the shadows. Daniel tightened his grip on the plasma rifle, his jaw clenched. That sound, he whispered. It's not human. The scraping of claws grew louder. Zira's mind raced. The holographic images of the Void Reapers from the archives came back to her. The black, insect-like creatures that brought fear and destruction. Could it be them? Suddenly, the tunnel lights flickered. The air turned icy cold. A creature stepped into view. It was nearly 7 feet tall, with armor-like skin that shimmered like dark glass. Its limbs were long and sharp, ending in clawed fingers. Its eyes burned red. A deep, vibrating hum filled the air as it tilted its head, focusing on them. Zira's breath caught in her throat. This can't be real. The Void Reapers were supposed to be a distant threat. The creature lunged. Daniel fired. Blue plasma bolts exploded against the Reaper's chest, but the creature didn't slow. It charged straight through the energy blasts. "Run!" Daniel shouted. Zira sprinted down the tunnel, her heart racing. Daniel fired over his shoulder as he followed. The creature's claws tore through the metal walls, sparks flying with every strike. Ahead, a service ladder led up to the surface. Zira reached it first. She scrambled up the rungs, Daniel close behind. The Reaper leaped onto the ladder, its claws slicing into the metal. Zira climbed faster. The cold air seemed to press against her skin, feeding her fear. She reached the hatch at the top and slammed her palm against the emergency release. The door hissed open. She pulled herself out onto the street, breathing hard. Daniel climbed out next. He turned and fired again, just as the Reaper lunged through the hatch. The plasma bolt struck its head. The creature screeched, the sound sharp and unnatural. It fell back into the darkness. Daniel slammed the hatch shut and locked it. They both stood there, gasping for breath. "That was a Reaper," Daniel said. Zira nodded. "They're already here." The city above them was eerily quiet. The streetlights flickered as though affected by the same energy that had chilled the tunnel. Hover cars drifted slowly overhead, their drivers unaware of the danger below. "We need to get off Earth," Daniel said. "The Reapers must have intercepted our search in the archives." "Your ship?" Zira asked. Daniel nodded. "Docking Bay 47. It's a stealth corvette, fast enough to reach the Typhon moonbase." They moved quickly through the streets, avoiding patrols. Daniel led them to a hidden alley where a sleek black hover car waited. He climbed into the driver's seat, and Zira took the passenger side. The car hummed to life and sped through the city's winding lanes. Zira kept glancing at the sky. If the Reapers are already here, why haven't they attacked? Daniel's grip tightened on the controls. "They don't fight like we do. They spread fear first. Fear weakens defenses, makes people panic, and turn on each other." Zira shuddered. Then Earth is already under attack. At Docking Bay 47, Daniel parked the car beside a sleek, dark ship marked Valkyrie. The corvette's surface absorbed light, making it nearly invisible. As they approached the ramp, Zira's communicator beeped softly. She froze. It was an encrypted signal from Zarethia. She hesitated, then answered. Her father's face appeared as a hologram. His expression was stern. "Xere," he said, "you've gone too far." "I had to find the truth," she said. "The Void Reapers are here, Father. I saw one." The king's eyes narrowed. "Earth lies. The humans want you to believe in this threat, so you'll help them." "No," Xere said. "The Reapers are real. And if we don't stop them together, both our worlds will fall." Voron's face hardened. "Come home now, or you will be declared a traitor." The hologram disappeared. Daniel exhaled slowly. That went well. Xera's jaw tightened. "We don't need my father's permission. We just need proof." They boarded the Valkyrie. Daniel powered up the engines, and the ship shot into the sky. The journey to the Typhon moonbase took several hours. Xera sat by the observation window, staring at the endless stars. Daniel joined her, handing her a ration pack. She took it but didn't eat. "I didn't know my father could be so blind," she said softly. "Fear makes people stubborn," Daniel said. "He's scared of humans. You're asking him to trust us when we're supposed to be enemies. He doesn't understand the bigger threat. Then we'll make him understand." Xera looked at Daniel. "I never expected a human to care so much about saving others." Daniel chuckled. "Yeah, well, humans surprise people sometimes." Xera gave a small smile. "Maybe." As they approached Typhon's moon, the base came into view. It was a dark, circular structure built into the lunar surface. No lights, no signals. "Looks abandoned," Daniel said. But that's what makes it suspicious. The Valkyrie landed on a dusty platform. They armed themselves with plasma pistols and stepped into the base. The corridors were cold and silent. The air smelled metallic and stale. They followed the guidance of Sira's stolen data crystal to the command center. A large control console sat covered in dust. Xira powered it on. The screen flickered to life, showing an old log entry. A human scientist appeared on the hologram, his face pale with fear. Project Genesis Log 47. The experiment failed. The Void Reapers are not an invading force. They're a parasite that infects minds. They spread fear until societies collapse from the inside. We tried to create soldiers immune to fear, but it was too late. The scientist glanced over his shoulder. They're already here. Earth is the next target. If anyone finds this, trust the Zarethians. Only unity can stop the Reapers. A loud crash echoed from the hallway. Daniel raised his weapon. Xira stepped back from the console. The lights went out. In the darkness, red eyes appeared. Hundreds of them. The betrayal, written with more suspense, action, and emotional depth. The language is simple and clear, and the story continues in the third-person style. The command center fell into darkness, the air thick with an unnatural chill. Xira's pulse raced as hundreds of red eyes glowed from the corridor beyond. The Void Reapers were here, trapped with them inside the abandoned moonbase. Daniel raised his plasma rifle, the faint hum of the weapon breaking the eerie silence. Xira gripped her pistol with both hands, her breath unsteady. The Reapers moved closer. Their claws scraped against the metal floor like nails on bone. The lead creature stepped forward, its armored body glinting faintly in the red glow of its eyes. It tilted its head, and a low, vibrating hum filled the air. Fear surged through Xira. It wasn't natural fear. It was invasive, sharp, like icy needles sinking into her mind. Her vision blurred. Images of Zarethia burning flashed before her eyes, her people screaming, her father's voice calling her name in despair. Cetera. Daniel's voice cut through the haze. Fight it. She gritted her teeth and shook her head. The fear remained but dulled slightly. The Reaper took another step. Its eyes brightened. The fear intensified. They're projecting fear, Daniel said, voice strained. It's their weapon. Stay close. He fired his plasma rifle. The blue blast struck the Reaper's chest. The creature screeched, stumbled back, but did not fall. The Reapers behind it surged forward. Run, Daniel shouted. They sprinted toward the side door. The Reapers followed with terrifying speed. Daniel fired as they ran, forcing the creatures to slow. The corridor split into two paths. Left, Xira shouted. They turned sharply, nearly slipping on the dusty floor. A metal door came into view. Xira reached it first and slammed her palm against the controls. The door hissed shut just as the Reapers reached them. Claws scratched violently against the metal. The door groaned under the pressure. Daniel locked the emergency bolts. That won't hold them for long, he said. Where does this hallway lead? To the Moonbase's command vault, Xira said, checking the map on her data crystal. It might have more information about the Reapers. Let's go. The vault door stood at the end of the corridor. It was massive, covered in layers of reinforced alloy. An ancient keypad blinked red. Xira accessed her data crystal and connected it to the console. The holographic interface flickered to life. Access code required, the system said. Try the universal override, Daniel suggested. Already on it, Xira replied, fingers flying across the keys. The console beeped. Access granted. The vault door rumbled open. Inside, the lights flickered on, revealing shelves of data cubes and an old central computer core. Daniel closed the door behind them and activated the manual lock. The pounding of Reaper claws echoed from the corridor. Xira approached the computer core. This system might tell us why Earth kept the Reaper threat a secret. The computer activated with a low hum. A human hologram appeared. A woman in a military uniform. Her face was pale, her eyes hollow. Log 128. Project Genesis. The Reapers are not invaders in the traditional sense. They infect fear itself. Once fear spreads, societies collapse, making worlds easy to harvest. Our research showed that only unity can resist their influence. The hologram shifted to show two holographic planets, Earth and Zarethia, linked by a glowing energy stream. We proposed an alliance with Zarethia, but the Zarethian Council rejected it, believing Earth created the Reaper threat to manipulate them. Without unity, Earth will fall. The image faded. Xira clenched her fists. My father ignored this warning. He was so afraid of humans that he refused to see the bigger danger. Daniel exhaled slowly. Earth's leaders did the same. They feared panic more than the truth. The pounding on the door intensified. The metal began to bend inward. Daniel scanned the room and spotted a ventilation shaft. Up there. He boosted Xira into the shaft before climbing after her. Below, the door collapsed, and the Reapers poured into the vault. They crawled through the narrow duct, the cold metal pressing against their knees and palms. The sounds of the Reapers faded as they climbed higher. The shaft ended at an access hatch. Daniel pushed it open. They emerged onto the moon's surface. The stars stretched above them, sharp and endless. The Valkyrie was parked about 50 meters away. Run, Daniel said. They sprinted across the moon's dusty surface. In the thin gravity, each step carried them far but felt unstable. Behind them, the Reapers emerged from the base. They moved unnaturally fast, leaping across the surface like shadows. Daniel reached the ship first and slammed his palm against the ramp controls. The ramp lowered slowly, too slowly. Xira reached him and turned to fire at the Reapers. Her plasma bolts struck the lead creature's legs. It stumbled but kept coming. The ramp hit the ground. Go, Daniel shouted. They dashed inside. Daniel hit the emergency lift switch. The ramp retracted. One Reaper leaped and grabbed the edge. Its claws dug into the metal. Xira fired at its head. The blast pierced one of its eyes. The creature screeched and fell back to the ground. Daniel launched the ship. The Valkyrie shot into space, leaving the moon and the Reapers behind. The silence of space wrapped around them like a fragile shield. Daniel set the autopilot for deep space and slumped in his chair. His hands trembled slightly. Xira sat across from him, her thoughts racing. The fear still clung to her, like icy tendrils in her mind. They're already here, she whispered. Yeah, Daniel said. The invasion has started. She turned to him. We have the proof now. The recordings from the moonbase. My father has to believe us. Daniel nodded. Let's hope we're not too late. As the Valkyrie traveled through the void, Xira accessed the ship's communication system and sent a high-priority message to Zarethia. Her father's face appeared on the screen. His expression turned to shock, then anger. You dare contact me after your betrayal, he growled. Father, listen, Xira said, voice steady. We found the truth. The Void Reapers are here. We've seen them. We have proof. More lies from humans, Vorin spat. No, Xira said. Project Genesis was never a weapon against Zarethia. It was a defense plan against the Reapers. The enemy is fear, not humanity. The king's eyes shifted. Doubt flickered across his face. Suddenly, the transmission crackled. The screen distorted. A new voice broke through. It was cold, metallic, and filled with malice. Too late, princess. Fear has already won. The screen showed an image of Zarethia. Strange black ships circled the planet. Explosions dotted the surface. Xira's heart stopped. No. King Vorin's voice returned, panicked. They're here. The Reapers are attacking the homeworld. Xira stood, fists clenched. We're coming, father. Hold on. Daniel set the course for Zarethia. The engines roared as the ship surged forward. "Unity," Zira whispered. "It's our only hope." The invasion begins, written with more action, suspense, and emotional depth. The language remains simple and clear, with a unique, engaging narrative in the third-person style. The Valkyrie hurtled through space, its engines pushed to the limit. The stars outside streaked into glowing lines as the ship raced toward Zarethia. Inside the cockpit, tension hung thick in the air. Zira sat at the co-pilot's seat, her eyes locked on the holographic map. The image of her homeworld glowed at the center, surrounded by dozens of red markers, enemy ships. "The Reapers got there first," she whispered. Daniel adjusted the flight controls, his jaw tight. "They always move faster than expected. They use fear like a virus, spreading chaos before anyone can react." Zira clenched her fists. Her father had refused to believe her. Now the Reapers had come to Zarethia, and countless innocent lives were paying the price. The comm system crackled. Kane Voran's face appeared on the screen, his features strained and pale. Smoke and shouting echoed from somewhere behind him. "Exira," he barked. "The Reapers are attacking every major city. Our orbital defenses are crumbling." "We're almost there, Father," Zira said. "You need to tell the fleet to work with Earth's forces." The Kane's eyes narrowed. "I told you before. Listen to me." Zira slammed her hand on the console. "I saw them with my own eyes. I fought them. The Reapers feed on fear and division. If we fight alone, we lose. We must stand with Earth." The King's face twisted with indecision. "The Council won't allow it." "Then override them," Zira said. "You're the king. Act like it." The screen crackled. Kane Voran stared at her for a moment longer, then gave a slow nod. "I'll try." The connection cut off. Daniel whistled softly. "You just told a king to act like a king. Brave move." Zira exhaled shakily. He needed to hear it. Daniel set the course adjustments. "We're approaching Zarethia now. Weapons ready." "Ready," Zira said, gripping the targeting controls. "Let's save my people." The Valkyrie emerged from warp above Zarethia. The planet's twin moons hung on either side, casting pale light across the battle unfolding below. Dark Reaper ships swarmed around the orbital stations, releasing bolts of crackling black energy. Zarethian defense platforms fired blue plasma beams in return, but the enemy's shields absorbed most of the damage. The Reaper ships pulsed with an eerie red glow. They moved with terrifying speed, weaving through defenses like hunting predators. Daniel studied the battlefield. They're targeting communication relays. If they disrupt planetary comms, they'll spread confusion across the military. "Then we take them out first," Zira said. Daniel angled the ship toward the nearest Reaper cluster. Zira locked the targeting system on the enemy vessels. "Firing plasma torpedoes," she said. The ship's weapons roared. Two bright blue torpedoes streaked across space and struck the nearest Reaper ship. The explosion ripped through the vessel's hull, sending fragments spinning away. The remaining Reaper ships turned toward the Valkyrie. "They're coming for us," Daniel said. "Let them," Zira replied, jaw tight. The Reapers launched black energy beams. Daniel twisted the ship into a steep dive. The beams missed by meters, crackling through the vacuum of space like ghostly tendrils. Zira fired again. One torpedo hit another Reaper ship, but the second missed. The enemy regrouped and pursued. "Shields down to 60%, Daniel said. "We won't last long like this." "Get us closer to the surface," Zira said. "We can use the atmosphere for cover." Daniel accelerated. The Valkyrie plunged toward Zarethia's atmosphere, flames licking across its hull as it pierced the planet's protective layer. The Reaper ships followed. The capital city stretched below them. Towering crystal spires burned as Reaper drones swarmed through the streets. Plasma turrets on the ground fired upward, but the enemy's unpredictable movements made them hard to hit. Daniel dodged between skyscrapers. The pursuing Reapers hesitated, unsure how to navigate the tight urban terrain. Zira fired from the rear cannons. One Reaper exploded against the side of a building. "Shields at 30%, Daniel warned. "Take us to the palace," Zira said. "We need to reach my father." The palace courtyard was a war zone. Zarethian guards in gleaming armor fought desperately against insect-like Reaper drones. Civilians huddled behind collapsed walls. Daniel landed the Valkyrie near the grand staircase. The moment the ramp lowered, Zira sprinted down, plasma pistol ready. Daniel followed. A Reaper drone leaped from the shadows, claws extended. Zira fired twice, hitting it in the chest. The creature screeched and collapsed. They reached the palace doors. Inside, Cain Vorin stood at the central command console, barking orders to his officers. His face turned as Zira entered. "You're alive," he said, relief flashing through his stern expression. "We need to coordinate with Earth's fleet," Zira said. "The Reapers are spreading fear to break our defenses. Only unity can stop them." The king hesitated. His gaze shifted to Daniel, standing beside her. "Father," Zira said, voice softer, "please, trust me. Trust us." King Vorin closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he turned to his officers. "Patch me through to Earth's command." The holographic communicator linked to Earth's defense command. Admiral Reyes, a stern woman with short hair, appeared. Her background showed Earth's fleet engaged in battle near Mars. "Cain Vorin," she greeted, surprised. "My daughter is right," Vorin said. "The Reapers are here. We must fight together." Reyes gave a tight nod. "Sending reinforcements now." The battle shifted. Zarethian and Earth forces began coordinating their attacks. Plasma beams from Earth destroyers intersected with Zarethian ion cannons, cutting through the Reapers' shields. But the Reapers adapted quickly. Their larger warships began projecting waves of psychic fear across the planet. Soldiers collapsed, paralyzed by terror. "They're amplifying their fear signal," Daniel said, watching the data feed. Zira remembered the moonbase logs. "They infect fear itself." "We need to disrupt their signal," she said. "If we can break their psychic network, their forces will lose coordination." Daniel pointed to a massive Reaper command ship orbiting above the capital. "That ship is the source." Cain Vorin nodded. "We'll give you cover. Go." The Valkyrie launched again, heading for the Reaper command ship. Enemy fighters swarmed toward them. "Hold on," Daniel shouted, spinning the ship through chaotic debris. Plasma bolts filled the sky. Zira locked onto the command ship's central core. The energy signature pulsed rhythmically, a heart of fear spreading across the planet. She set the targeting system, plasma torpedoes armed. Daniel flew straight toward the core. The ship shook as enemy fire hit the shields. "Shields critical," Daniel said. "Just a little closer," Zira whispered. The core glowed bright red. The Valkyrie shook violently as Reaper weapons struck the hull. Sparks flew across the controls. "Firing," Zira shouted. She released the torpedoes. The projectiles streaked toward the core. The command ship's defenses tried to intercept them. One torpedo exploded prematurely. The second hit the core dead center. The core imploded in a brilliant burst of white energy. The psychic signal shattered. Across the battlefield, Reaper drones froze, disoriented. The Zarethian and Earth fleets seized the moment, unleashing a coordinated barrage of firepower. Reaper ships exploded one after another. The battle turned. The enemy retreated into deep space. The Valkyrie landed in the palace courtyard hours later. Smoke drifted through the air. The Reaper bodies lay still, their red eyes dark. Cain Vorin stood on the steps, waiting. Zira stepped out with Daniel at her side. The king met her gaze. "I was wrong," he said. "About Earth. About you." Zira's throat tightened. "We only won because we stood together." Cain Vorin looked at Daniel. "Thank you for protecting my daughter. And our world." Daniel nodded. The war isn't over yet. The Reapers will regroup. Zira looked at the sky, where stars twinkled peacefully once more. This was just the beginning, she said. The last stand, written with more action, suspense, and emotional intensity. The language remains simple and clear, with a unique and engaging narrative in the third-person style. The stars above Zarethia shimmered with deceptive calm. The sky was clear now, free of the burning trails of battle. But Sira knew the peace was temporary. The Reapers had retreated, not been defeated. They would return stronger, smarter, and more determined. In the palace command center, holographic projections displayed the aftermath of the battle. Thousands of lives lost. Cities in ruins. The Zarethian fleet, though victorious, was weakened. Earth's forces reported similar damage. Daniel stood beside Sira, his arms crossed, eyes focused on the data streams. "They'll be back," he said. Zira nodded. "We barely survived this time. Next time, we might not." King Vorin sat in his command chair, silent. His usual commanding presence seemed diminished. His daughter's words weighed heavily on him. A new alert sounded. The central hologram shifted to display a distant solar system. Strange, pulsing signals flickered from one of its planets. "Identify source," Vorin ordered. The computer responded. "Signal origin. Tartarus system. Transmission type. Reaper command frequency." Zira's stomach dropped. "They're regrouping." Daniel leaned closer to the map. "They're using Tartarus as a staging ground. That's a dead system, perfect for building an invasion force." Vorin stood. "Then we strike first. We cannot give them time to recover." Zira hesitated. "Father, the fleet is too damaged. We don't have the strength for a direct assault." "We don't have a choice," Vorin said. "If we wait, we lose everything." Daniel tapped the holographic interface. "We might not need to fight their entire fleet." Zira looked at him. "What do you mean?" Daniel zoomed in on the Tartarus system. The Reaper signals originated from a large black sphere orbiting the fourth planet. "That's their command nexus," Daniel said. "If we destroy that structure, we disrupt their control over the hive. Without central coordination, their forces collapse." The king frowned. "How can you be sure?" "We saw it happen here," Zira said. "When we destroyed the command core, their ground forces shut down instantly." King Vorin's eyes hardened. "Then we will strike the heart of the enemy. Prepare the fleet." The mission. The combined Earth-Zarethian fleet gathered at the edge of the Tartarus system. Warships of different designs stood side by side. Earth's angular, steel-gray cruisers alongside Zarethia's elegant, glowing battlecraft. Aboard the flagship Eternal Flame, Zira, Daniel, and King Vorin addressed the joint fleet via broadcast. Zira's voice was steady despite the fear in her chest. "The Reapers are not invincible. They use fear to divide us, to make us weak. But today we stand united, human and Zarethian. We fight not for power, but for survival. For each other. Today we strike at the heart of darkness." The crews responded with determined cheers. The infiltration. The fleet launched toward the Reaper Nexus. As expected, enemy ships swarmed from the black sphere to intercept. The battle erupted with blinding flashes of plasma fire and deadly precision. While the main fleet engaged the Reapers, the Valkyrie slipped past the chaos, cloaked by its stealth systems. Daniel piloted the ship with grim focus. Zira monitored the sensor array. The Reaper command nexus loomed ahead, a vast, obsidian sphere covered in pulsing red veins. Energy beams arced from its surface, directing the hive fleet like a conductor leading an orchestra of destruction. Daniel angled the Valkyrie toward a narrow docking port. "Almost there," he muttered. A sudden jolt shook the ship. Warning alarms blared. "We've been spotted," Zira said. "They're locking onto us." Daniel hit the thrusters, pushing the ship into the docking port just as energy beams sliced through the space behind them. The ship screeched as it scraped against the metallic walls. They crashed into the docking bay. Sparks flew. Smoke filled the cabin. Status. Daniel coughed. Ship's fried, Zira said. No turning back now. They grabbed their weapons and forced open the hatch. The interior of the Reaper Nexus pulsed like a living thing. The walls shifted under their feet, as though breathing. Zira checked the data crystal. The core is deep underground. We'll have to go through the command chamber. Daniel gestured ahead. Lead the way. The command chamber. The corridor led them to a vast, circular chamber. A towering crystalline structure dominated the center, glowing red and emitting a deep rhythmic hum. Thousands of nerve-like cables ran from the core into the walls. The air was suffocatingly cold. Standing in front of the core was a figure draped in shadow. Its body was humanoid but grotesque, with elongated limbs and skin like cracked stone. Its eyes glowed blood red. The creature's voice echoed through the chamber. Welcome, Princess of Zarethia. Captain of Earth, you come to fight the inevitable. Zira steadied her pistol. The only inevitable thing here is your destruction. The creature's mouth stretched into something resembling a smile. You cannot kill fear. The hum from the core intensified. A wave of psychic terror slammed into them. Zira fell to her knees, her vision filled with horrific images. Zarethia crumbling, her father dying, Daniel lying motionless in a pool of blood. Panic gripped her chest like a vice. Beside her, Daniel gasped for breath. His eyes unfocused. His hands trembled. No, we've come too far. Zira forced herself to move. She remembered the moonbase logs. The Reapers feed on fear. Only unity can resist. She reached for Daniel's hand. Her touch grounded him. We're stronger than this, she said, voice shaky but determined. Together, focus on me. Daniel blinked and tightened his grip. His breathing steadied. The creature hissed. Fools, unity cannot save you. The Reaper lunged. Daniel fired his rifle. Plasma bolts struck the creature, slowing it but not stopping it. Get to the core, Daniel shouted. Zira sprinted toward the glowing structure. The creature roared and lashed out with a whip-like appendage. Daniel threw himself in its path. The appendage pierced his side. Daniel. Zira screamed. Daniel fell to the ground, blood soaking his uniform. Finish it, he gasped. Zira's eyes burned with tears. She raised her pistol and fired at the core. The plasma blasts shattered the crystalline surface. The core's glow turned unstable, flickering wildly. The creature shrieked, convulsing as its connection to the core broke. Zira set her weapon to overload and placed it against the core. The energy buildup whined higher and higher. She knelt beside Daniel. His eyes fluttered. It's ready to blow, she whispered. Then, let's end this together, Daniel said. The core crackled with energy. The walls trembled. The creature, weakened but furious, lunged again. Zira and Daniel fired their weapons at the collapsing core. The room exploded in a blinding burst of white light. The aftermath. The Reaper fleet above Tartarus collapsed instantly. Without the command nexus, their ships drifted, lifeless. The combined Earth-Zarethian fleet destroyed the remaining vessels with ease. On the bridge of the Eternal Flame, Cain Vorin watched the enemy fall. His heart ached with pride and sorrow. Their sacrifice saved us, he whispered. Days later, search teams found the ruins of the Reaper Nexus. At the core's shattered remains, they discovered two figures, Zira and Daniel, still holding hands. Miraculously, their bodies were intact. Their heartbeats faint but steady. The medical team rushed them to the fleet's medbay. Zira awoke to the soft hum of a medical monitor. Daniel lay beside her, breathing weakly but alive. She squeezed his hand. His eyes opened. We did it, he said, voice raspy. Zira smiled through her tears. Together. The war against fear was not over, but they had delivered a powerful message. Human and Zarethian. Together, they were stronger than the darkness. The Dawn of Unity, written with more action, suspense, and emotional depth to conclude the story. The language remains simple and clear, with a unique and engaging narrative in the third-person style. The medbay lights glowed softly, casting a gentle warmth over the sterile room. The rhythmic beep of heart monitors filled the air. Zura lay in the medical pod, her body sore but healing. Her mind felt like it had traveled through endless storms. Beside her, Daniel lay still, breathing softly. His skin was pale, and bandages covered his side where the Reaper's appendage had pierced him. His chest rose and fell slowly. Zura reached out and took his hand, giving it a light squeeze. His eyes fluttered open. "You're awake," she whispered. Daniel gave a faint smile. "Couldn't let you have all the glory." Zura smiled through the tears that burned her eyes. "We did it. The Nexus is destroyed." The Reaper fleet collapsed. Daniel exhaled in relief. "We survived." "Together," Zura said softly. The aftermath of victory. 2 days later, the Earth-Zarethian fleet gathered in low orbit above Zarethia for a memorial ceremony. The twin moons cast their pale light across the surface as the last wreckage of Reaper ships drifted in the void. Zura and Daniel stood side by side on the palace balcony, looking out over the city. Though many towers were damaged, the city still stood. People filled the streets, rebuilding with hope and determination. Cain Voran joined them. His royal armor gleamed under the soft moonlight. "My daughter," he said, his voice proud. "And Captain Cross, you brought us to victory when I could not see past my own fear." Zura placed a hand on her father's arm. "You trusted us when it mattered most. That made all the difference." Voran nodded and gestured toward the vast crowd below. "It is time." The king stepped onto the balcony and raised his hand. The crowd fell silent. "My people," Voran began, his voice amplified across the city. "Today, we honor those who sacrifice for our survival. We faced a nightmare, not of flesh and steel, but of fear. The Reapers sought to break our unity, to turn us against each other. But we stood together." He extended his hand toward Daniel, who hesitated before stepping forward. "This human stood beside my daughter in our darkest hour," Voran continued. "He fought not just for his world, but for ours. And together, they struck at the heart of the Reaper hive." The crowd erupted into cheers. Zura stepped forward, her voice steady. "The battle we won here is only the beginning. The Reapers are still out there, lurking in the shadows. But we now know their greatest weakness: unity. Fear divides, but unity strengthens." She glanced at Daniel, who gave a small nod. "Earth and Zarethia once viewed each other as enemies. We let fear guide us," Zura said. "But no more. From this day forward, we will stand as allies. Together, we will form the Interstellar Unity Accord. We will fight not just to survive, but to protect every world threatened by the Reapers." The crowd roared with approval. The rising threat. After the ceremony, Zura, Daniel, and Cain Voran gathered in the war room. Holographic maps displayed nearby star systems. The Tartarus Nexus was gone, but faint signals appeared along the outer rim. Daniel tapped the hologram. "They're not finished. The Reapers are regrouping." Zura nodded. "They're adapting. We hit their core, so next time they'll spread their command systems across multiple ships." Cain Voran's expression darkened. If they learned to project fear without a central nexus, they could attack multiple worlds at once. Daniel leaned back, thoughtful. "We need allies, more than Earth and Zarethia. If we face the Reapers alone, we'll eventually fall." Zura pulled up a map of known inhabited worlds. The Orion Confederation, the Telari clans, even the Rukari nomads. If we unite them under the Accord, we might have a chance. Her father hesitated. Some of those species have been enemies for centuries. That's exactly why the Reapers will target them next, Zira said. Fear will keep us divided. We can't let that happen. Cain Vorin gave a slow nod. Then we must become messengers of unity. The Reapers sow fear, we will sow trust. The hidden enemy. Days later, aboard the Earth flagship Liberty Star, Daniel stood beside Xira as the ship approached the Orion Confederation's capital station. The Orions were cautious and suspicious of outsiders. Convincing them to join would be difficult. As the ship docked, Daniel glanced at Xira. "You really think they'll listen?" Xira smiled faintly. "They'll listen when we tell them the truth. The Reapers aren't coming for one world. They're coming for everyone." The station's docking clamps locked into place. The airlock opened. Orion guards with reptilian features greeted them with cold stares. "Princess Xira of Zarethia, Captain Cross of Earth," the Orion commander said. "The council is waiting." The two followed the guards into the council chamber. Massive crystal pillars lined the room, and the Orion leaders sat behind a curved, elevated table. Their eyes glimmered with suspicion. Xira bowed slightly. "Counselors of Orion, we come with a warning and a request." The Orion leader, Prime Speaker Talrex, leaned forward. "A warning?" Xira activated her data crystal. The holographic image of the Reaper's attack on Zarethia filled the chamber. Black ships descending, energy beams reducing cities to ash, and the terrifying red-eyed creatures. "The Reapers are not a myth," Xira said. "They came for my world. They will come for yours." The council murmured uneasily. "And what do you want from us?" Talrex asked. "Join the Interstellar Unity Accord," Daniel said. "Together, we can fight the Reapers before they reach your colonies." Talrex's eyes narrowed. "Unity sounds noble, Captain Cross, but Orion has survived alone for centuries. We will not risk our people for another's war." Daniel took a step forward. "We thought the same thing on Earth. We believed staying isolated would protect us. It didn't. The Reapers don't care about borders. They hunt fear, and every world that stands alone becomes easy prey." Talrex hesitated. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The holographic map distorted. A deep mechanical voice filled the chamber. "You cannot escape us." The image on the projector changed. The Orion homeworld appeared, wrapped in shadow. Red energy veins pulsed across its surface. Xira's breath caught. "No, they're already here." Talrex stood, his face pale. "Impossible." "Our defenses. Fear blinds you," the voice continued. "And your fear is delicious." The hologram shifted to show a familiar figure, the Reaper overlord they had faced on Tartarus. Its cracked, stone-like face sneered. "We warned you. Unity is an illusion. Fear is eternal." The image faded. The lights returned to normal. The council chamber fell into stunned silence. Daniel broke it. "Now do you believe us?" Prime Speaker Talrex's eyes were wide with dread. "What must we do?" The final resolution. The Orion fleet mobilized immediately, joining Earth and Zarethia in the accord. Across the galaxy, other species responded to the call. The Teleri clans pledged their fast, agile warships. The Rukari nomads sent elite fighters. The Reaper's message had backfired. Instead of spreading fear, it had sparked a fire of unity. Weeks later, on the bridge of the new Unity flagship Dawnfire, Xira and Daniel stood side by side as the fleet gathered in formation. "Think we're ready?" Daniel asked. "No," Xira admitted, "but we'll never be alone again." The stars ahead glittered like distant promises. The Reapers were still out there, watching, waiting. But humanity and Zarethia, and their new allies, were ready. They had learned the Reaper's greatest secret. Fear only wins when people stand alone. Together, they would fight until the stars themselves grew cold.